Yo, it's your boy Mike Gomes. Welcome to another educational video. We're going to go over today our 8-step sales process. I'm excited. Sales is like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm excited to break this thing down for y'all. But before we do that, if you guys are getting any value from this channel, please like this video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate y'all. Let's get into it, baby. So let's start off by just explaining our sales process before we actually get to the first acquisition manager sales call. Before we get there, obviously a cold caller or texter generates a lead. Then it goes to our lead manager. She follows up with the lead or just pushes it right to acquisitions. And then it comes to an actual phone call appointment that's set up from the lead manager to our acquisitions team. And I'm going to take you guys through the 8 steps that my acquisitions team goes through in order to close a deal. So let's start off with number one. Number one, we got our bonding / intro. Okay. What is the bonding and / intro step? This is essentially just making a human connection right away. So right off the rip, we try to make the seller smile. Maybe we crack a little joke. We're not getting into crazy, like talking about cats and dogs and all this stuff. Sellers don't want to hear that shit, right? But we are making the seller smile. We want them to know that we're a human behind the phone. We're not just a robot, right? So we make them smile and we essentially greet them so that they feel as if they already know us. So boom, that's the first thing. Second thing, we get into the rapport. Now, a lot of people teach rapport differently, right? And a lot of people will teach rapport as saying something like, hey, you want to talk about what they like in life, like cats or dogs or something like that. We don't get into any of that. The way we treat rapport is essentially figuring out their situation. So we ask them, hey, give me a rundown of what is going on here. Like, give me the whole entire situation so that I have a full understanding of how we can help you. So we just get into the weeds of their situation. We're not talking about dogs and cats and the football games and everything like that. That's more of bonding, in my opinion. And we don't even go in that in the bonding stage. But rapport to us is just figuring out the information, gathering information. That's what we are as salespeople. We're information gatherers. So we gather all the information about the situation, about their house, about why they're ever selling and all that type of stuff. A lot of the times we get the motivation in this rapport stage, right? Which is the biggest thing. We want to know why these people are selling the property. Okay. So now that you have the whole entire story behind why they would sell, maybe, the last deal that we did, the guy was going through foreclosure. He needed the foreclosure stopped, or he was literally going to be foreclosed on and be on the streets. So that was the story behind it. There's also the story behind that story. Hey, how did you get here? I got here because I was disabled. I lost my job and all these things, right? So you're gathering the whole story in stage number 2. And then in number 3, since you have the whole entire story now and you know why they would ever sell, you understand what their pain is. So in step number 3, we're not actually pulling information to gather the pain. We're actually in step number 3, making them feel the pain. So what do? We essentially twist the knife. Okay. We already know at this point, right? We already gathered all the information. We already know that what their pain is. So we're just essentially making them realize what their pain is. And we say something along the lines of like, oh my God, wait, you haven't paid the mortgage in 4 months and you're about to go through foreclosure? Like, I can't imagine what you're going through. How do you feel? And we're asking those type of questions to really make them feel their pain. Okay. Now, number 4, we get into budget. And a lot of the times some of this stuff is figured out up here, but essentially in the budget stage, we're asking why they want to sell their property for a certain price, right? First off, we're getting the price that they want to sell for. Like, how much do you need? And then we're asking, why do you need that? Why do you need 200,000 so much? Because these sellers will just throw a number out there, right? But it's important to figure out why they need that much, because then we can either structure some creative terms around it or figure out how we solve their problem based on why they need that money. Okay. So from number 5, this is the decision bucket. The decision bucket is essentially how they're making the decision and who they need to talk to in order to make the decision. So I'm asking questions like, hey, if you could wave a magic wand, what are all the things that are taken care of in this situation? Right. And boom, they essentially tell you how they're making the decision. I'm making the decision if I get to move down to Florida and my family's taken care of and I get the number that I need in order to pay off the mortgage, then I'll have some money to go get a mobile home down in Florida or something like that. You're getting like their how. How are they making the decision? Okay, great. Now that we have the how, we also need the who. Who is helping you make the decision? Are you going to have to go talk to your attorney? Do you need to talk to a sibling? Do you need to talk to your spouse? Do you need to talk to your cousin? Like whoever. Who do you need to talk to in order to make the decision? Or are you solely making this decision on your own? Okay. Number 6, we're looking at fulfillment. How do you spell fulfillment? I stink at spelling if you guys haven't. Fulfillment. Great. Like I said, I stink at spelling, so bear with me. That's why spell check is amazing. So fulfillment, what is this? Essentially, fulfillment is painting the picture of their pain and their whole entire situation, right? So we regurgitate again. It's almost like step number 3. We go over all their pain and we say, hey, what if somebody came in here and paid for your moving expenses all the way down in Florida, set it all up for you. You didn't have to take care of anything back at this house as far as repairs. And we did this, that, and the other. And actually, I don't even go into I'm talking about another person. I'm saying if somebody did this for you, not saying that we have to, maybe it's a different company, right? But if somebody could do this, that, and the other, and you're essentially saying this, that, and the other is what solves their pain, what would be the next steps here? Or would that help your situation? They say, yeah. Okay, great. Well, I don't know if we can solve all these problems, but if we can, what would be the next steps? Like, send the freaking contract. Let's go. And boom, you close them. But guess what? We are not done. Okay. You just got them to agree, like, yes, let's do this freaking deal. So once they agree, once they're like, yeah, when you ask what would be the next steps, they said, send the contract. Let's get this thing going. You're still not even like, okay, great, I'm going to send the contract. Let's go. Because what happens? They kind of get scary now. So you're saying, hey, listen, I don't even know if I can do this just yet. Okay. I have to go back to my team, or I have to go back to my lender, or I have to go back to my partner. Let me put you on hold. And then I'm going to get back to you and I'm going to see if we can get this thing done for you. Or depending on the situation, whatever they got going on, let me give you a call back tomorrow. I'll give you a call back in an hour or whatever. I always try to do it on hold, but I essentially go back to somebody, going back to my financial partner, going back to my lender, or going back to my team, or whatever the case is. I'm going back to them and getting the information, and I'm going to bat for the seller. And I come back to the seller, and then I give them the sauce. Okay. So what I call this is just upfront contract of the next steps. So I give them the upfront contract. So what an upfront contract is essentially getting them to agree to the next steps, being okay with what's coming next. So essentially, I give them the upfront contract of the next steps here. And the next steps are what I just said. Hey, what I'm going to do, I'm not sure if I can do this just yet, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to call my team. And then I'm going to get back on the phone with you and we're going to go over this thing together. Is that okay? They say, yeah, great. Okay, cool. So then you come back and you start this. You close them. And essentially in this closing phase, you're negotiating. Okay. But you're not negotiating live with the seller. You go back to the seller and you just said, hey, listen, I went to bat for you. Like it was like David versus Goliath out there. I was trying to get my lender to come up as much as possible. That being said, we can take care of this, that, and the other. And you go back to tell them how you take care of the pain. We can take care of this, that, and the other. If we do that, we're going to be at $150,000. And then you just shut up. Okay. Now what's going to end up happening? They're either going to say, yes, let's move forward, or no, that number doesn't work for me. If the number doesn't work for you, then you don't negotiate live. You're not saying like, hey, well, what if we did this? What if we did 160? No, you're saying, oh my God, okay. I can really go back to my partner maybe one or two more times before he's like, dude, these people aren't, we're not just going to get a deal done here, right? I can only go back to him maybe one or two times. So what's the absolutely lowest number I can go back to him with? And then you quote unquote go back to your partner and then come back in and you say, hey, my partner came up to X. Do you want to do the deal? And they say, yes, boom. They say, yes, boom. You close the deal. You got this freaking thing locked up, but not yet. You still have to go through the contract. So this is just the verbal close. You get them to verbally say yes, but you still have to get them to sign the paper. So that's a whole entire thing in itself, going over a contract with somebody. And we'll go over that in the coming weeks. But this just gives you guys the idea of how we get a seller to verbally agree to our contract. I hope this helped y'all. This took me literally like 2 years to figure out. And finally, like, actually, I just implemented, we already had this in place, but I kind of perfected it to my team in depth this week, and they've been crushing it. So this is some sauce. If y'all getting some value, like this video, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate y'all watching. Let's go.